quite a while after it was launched, the Volkswagen Amarok had a bit of an advantage over its competition. It was arguably the best looking bakkie on the market, plus it had an interior that was more comfortable and more user-friendly. But thanks to an onslaught from its rivals over the last 2 years or so, the Amarok has had to up its game. Given that the new options from the likes of Ford and Toyota can now match the Amarok in terms of look and interior comfort, for Volkswagen to up its game might suggest that they launch Amarok version 2.0. But that's still a few years away, and what they've done instead is given their bakkie a facelift. An incredibly mild one. The styling update basically includes a new grille and a new front bumper, but the lack of any real change is hardly a problem because, believe it or not, this bakkie is about to approach its 8th birthday, and it's still as good looking as the day it first appeared. It's certainly not outdated when parked next to a Ranger or a Hilux. Or a Navara for that matter. Stronger horizontal lines and cleaner edges mean the Amarok is now a little bit more purposeful in its styling. It still is a very chunky double cab, and the update manages to underline its combination of strength and style. The refreshed Amarok also brings with it the death of the lineup single cab options. With declining sales, Volkswagen have opted to follow in Ford's footsteps by deciding to focus their attention on the double cab market. One part of the Amarok update that is big news is this engine. It's a 3-litre V6 turbo diesel with 165 kilowatts, 550 newton meters. Drive is to all 4 wheels through an 8-speed automatic gearbox. And without even having driven this car, I can tell you that this engine really is in a class of its own. No, really, it's the only V6 diesel available in a double cab bakkie in South Africa. And while Volkswagen is quite happy to boast about that particular fact, it does have its limitations. Volkswagen doesn't offer a low range with the 8-speed auto, and this V6 isn't available with a manual. So if you're looking to head into serious terrain, you'll have to consider other options. But if you're a regular double cab driver, in other words one that doesn't take on serious terrain, this drivetrain definitely has its merits, the main one being superb power delivery. The variable geometry turbo makes sure there's no lag, and the gearbox works brilliantly with the engine to deliver very satisfying shove. On the open road, it'll quickly drop a gear or two to make sure progress is absolutely effortless. It's not scared to let you know that it is a diesel. With the revs up, the Amarok turns the diesel soundtrack up to 10. And the turbo is surprisingly loud. You can pretty much hear it hissing away whenever it's working. It's not unpleasant, just unexpected. The rest of the mechanical setup remains, so without any changes to the suspension, that means that this Amarok feels basically the same as the older one. Confident in the corners, generally comfortable, but it can't quite match the refinement of the Hilux or the Ranger. Which I suppose isn't surprising, given that those two have the benefit of more up-to-date designs. The Amarok does include useful tech for those occasional off-road excursions. The permanent all-wheel drive system will automatically distribute torque between the axles, and it has an electronic diff lock with the option for an additional mechanical diff lock. If you're tempted to carry a load, this Amarok will take on over 850 kilograms and can tow up to 3.3 tons. The other notable part of the update, the interior. From the very beginning, there's one thing that the Amarok has done better than anybody else, and that's offer a cabin with good ergonomics and high comfort levels. And that seems to have started a bit of a trend amongst bakkie manufacturers because, generally speaking, these days, the interiors of these kinds of cars are much better than they ever were. But none of them can quite match this setup. In design terms, it's basically a cut and paste job from any other regular Volkswagen, with some adjustment to the dimensions obviously to make sure it all fits properly. And even though Ford and Toyota and Nissan and Mitsubishi and Fiat and Isuzu all have good interiors, they're still not as user-friendly or as comfortable or as nicely finished as the Amarok. The update has added a 6-inch touchscreen across the range, and our Highline Plus spec test car includes sat-nav as standard. The leather is also part of the package. So, it looks as good as the old one. It's got more power, it's got a better version of what was already a very good interior, and it's the only V6 diesel in its class. Looks like the new Volkswagen Amarok is a winner. And it would be if it wasn't so madly expensive. At 716,000 Rand, that car is 100,000 Rand more expensive than the most expensive option from any of its competitors. Now, I do think that that is a lot of bucky, but I'm not sure it's that much more than the others. The V6 Amarok is a pleasure on road thanks to a combination of lots of power delivered via a good 6-speed auto gearbox. An unchanged suspension setup means it still delivers good comfort too. The interior remains a highlight and is now even more car-like with top spec design and finish. But for all of that, there is a hefty premium to be paid.